Welcome back. Today is continuing our discussions on everything whiting. This may be my favorite part of whiting because of all the streamers and whatnot, but this is American, and I'm going to go through, you'll see there's a bunch of them, but basically for what I use them for, like here's Johnny's Kill Whitey. You can see this really big deceiver style tail. And this tail here, you can see it's kind of a medium-sized tail, but anything that has to do with deceivers, tails, or anything that where you're going to set, or a traditional set, like I was working on these things here that are, these are just sets I've already put together and I'm going to use later. But anytime, like in my belly bumpers, or that new streamer I just showed you, anything that has a deceiver tail of any sort, whether it's this big or that big, like that Kill Whitey, I'm going to be reaching for American. And I've used this for years and years. If anybody's ever watched our videos, I've used this exclusively for anything that would be Schlappen substitute. And I want to show you some of the virtues of it. And there's really no drawbacks whatsoever. I think this is probably my favorite product in the, obviously the red label's the hallmark of their product. But for me, what I use more than anything are these two products right here. And it's the American saddle, this right here. And obviously there's a top and a bottom to the bird. So there's the saddle and then there's the cape, all right? And I want to show you the differences, and I'm going to go through kind of from the white dyed to the Grizzlies to the other styles and just go through them. But I want to show you just kind of basically what I look for in these things, what I use them for so much. And there's, again, these are Polish chickens for the most part that we're going to talk about. When we get into the freshwater, we're going to hit on that just for at the end. But these birds are bred to be fuller feathered, and they're not like a dry fly hackle where they're in the saddles. They're more like Schlappen. When you look at Schlappen, and when you look at a Schlappen feather, you'll see that it's kind of webby, right? It's not translucent. It's rather opaque, and it's a broad feather. I just picked one out earlier so you could see it. And this one here, you can see it's got the nice straight stem. So when you're when you're going to set a feather up to, two of them beside each other to give a tail effect, they're nice, thick stems, and it's kind of opaque. You can't really see through it so much on your saddles in particular. So I'm going to start with the saddles, and then we'll go to the necks. So when you look at these saddles, and we're going to go over the colors too and all that stuff, but when you first look at them, what you're going to see is that they're big feathers, right? This is a really big feather, and they lay out really nicely. The stems are very straight on these, and when you're looking at the saddles, remember that from about the midway up that's the money, right? When you get down into these saddles, you're going to start getting into some really short feathers, and if you're doing little deceivers and stuff like that, but you're going to run into some like 2.5 to 3 inch feathers. Not necessarily what I'm looking for, but you're going to get some of them down in here, and a few of the more shiny or more dry flyish looking feathers at the sides. But for the most part, what I look for when I look at these saddles is I'm looking for everything from here up, right? So from about here up, I'm going to get just an unbelievable number of Schlappen style feathers. And there's going to be, depending on the one you can get feathers 8 inches long that are completely usable. And one of the things when you start working with saddles, as opposed to buying strung Schlappen, is and especially if you're going to do a set, where if you're going to match a set of tails like this right here, right? If it's going to be a matched set of tails, when you buy strung Schlappen, you're getting a strung hackle that's just been sewn together. You are not getting matched sets. You're getting stuff from all over the place. When you buy a saddle, you're going to get, from here up, right up the middle, you get matched sets on each side, right? It's just the bird. You're getting both sides of it. So you're going to get perfect matches to your feathers. Okay, and that's what I use them for. And if you've ever been to one of my tying seminars or anywhere you've ever seen I never leave home without this Tupperware thing full of Americans. It is truly the product I use more than anything at Whiting. But now I want to go into the cape because they're not the same. When you look at the cape and the saddle, where do you like that? Right there, Jimmy?
You're good.
All right, when you look at this, what you're going to see, and this is a really, maybe not in the dyed colors, but in some of the naturals and the Grizzlies, you're going to get a twofold here. You're going to get a ton. When you get up in here, you're going to get a lot of schloppany. Actually, that feather I picked off is off of a saddle, or off of a cape, I mean. So you're going to get a lot of the schloppen style feather, which is a little more opaque. You don't see through it, doesn't give you the shine. But when you drop down just a little bit into here, now you're going to get thinner feathers. You're going to get more of a feather, like a dry fly style feather. And you'll see they're shiny, and they're more opaque or translucent. You can see more through them. So it just, as you go down, it's just like I'm right here in the middle. I kind of got a half and a half. Now, that makes a really nice deceiver tail. That's what most deceivers were tied with in the old days anyway. But there's another virtue to this from the fact that it's, if you're going to do, like on my dungeons and stuff like that, I don't like to use schloppen. A lot of people use schloppen on their, when they're ribbing their feather, or their dungeons and different style flies where you're going to rib it with the bigger hackle. Personally, I like to have that shine that you get on the sides of these feathers. When you look at a dry fly hackle, especially down towards the tips, there's this really shiny portion to it. And so when I do my own, that's what I use for my ribbing. But it's going to give you an enormous amount of really good, schloppen style feather up here. You're going to drop down to the middle. Everything from here down is going to be more dry flyish. And it's good for ribbing feather for flies, but it's also, when you get into the more natural colors like this color right here, this is a really good big fly, like a 12 and up drakes and hexes and stuff. This is a really good feather for a dry fly. And so you still get all of this bottom down here, which is going to be all your you can kind of see there's I don't know if you can see that or not, but you can see the tips of this is really shiny, but it's still going to give you a lot of this more schloppany style feather that's kind of opaque. So it's multifunctional for that feather. But like I use the saddles more than I use anything, just because I get so many. I would say, I don't know, I've never really pulled one completely apart. If you get a really good one, like this one I've been using for a long time, and it still looks like it's brand new, I would say that you get probably 2 packages of schloppen, like a bundle of schloppen per top end of one of these things. The difference is perfectly matched. And the other thing is, they're not all messed up. They're all, they've been sitting here like this and they're laid out really nicely. And so then you go from this is the regular, just as the white dyed, right? 18 colors roughly of the white dyed. And the thing about that is it's just the vibrant colors you get with this stuff. I mean, I just grabbed some of mine, out of the box here, but I mean, every color you can imagine, yellow, greens, chartreuse, there's 3 different shades of olive, all your naturals, just a really workable feather. And then you go into your variants, and these are just saddles, and this is the natural bird. So you're going to get some kind of funky colors, right? You're going to get a bunch of, and if that's what you're looking for, it's kind of Crieche thing here. These are all variants, but they're the natural bird. I tend to work with a lot of the dyed over white. The colors, I mean, this is a dyed over white, and then there's also the natural and the dun in these two, but they are so consistent. If you're looking for consistency in your flies, it's really hard to beat that dyed over white. So then we go into the Grizzlies, identical, same thing. It's just that now, and we're going to segue into something else with this in a second when I get done with these, but this is getting really hard to come by. It's getting hard to get American Grizzly. And we still have some, but it's kind of fading out. There's just not enough use they have to do both sides of it. There's not as much use on the Grizzly necks. And so they're kind of phasing this, not out completely, but it's getting harder to come by. But the same thing holds true when you go into these necks, into the Grizzlies. You're going to see you're going to get a little bit more schlappen-esh up here, a little less translucent, a little more opaque. Same with these. You get up in here and you're going to have a more, you can see, you don't see through this feather, right? It's just, but it's, again, a really, really good match sets on all these feathers. And again, with the same thing as with the dyed over white, when you look at these feathers, now you've got a feather you can either wrap and palmer up your feather, your fly, or if you're doing small deceivers, these are incredible feathers. They're great. If you're doing little deceivers, great. And again, it's a much better value, if you ask me, than it is to buy the packaged schlappen. Lots of times when you buy a packaged schlappen, you're lucky to get a half dozen perfectly matched set. That'd be a really good day. So these you're getting, it's just a better value. And then just to continue with the Americans here, there's two other products, and you've got your white dyed, you've got your Grizzly, and then you've got your Badgers. And again, all the colors, there's 18, it's on hand, whatever they've got available, about 18 colors, and anywhere from the olives all the way through the, the Silver Doctor blues and the pinks and anything you want. There's every color you can even imagine. But there's two types of these necks and saddles in this. There's the Badger, which you can see right here. It's just a traditional Badger, right? It's got this stripe down the middle. And then you've got black dyed, or black laced dyed over white. And what that is this is just a super unique feather. And so what you'll see here is instead of having the Badger down the center, it's got, is that right where you need it, yep, Jeremy? You can see it's got this really cool, the accent is on the outside, the middle is the constant color, and then it's got the black lace on each edge right there. This is such a cool feather to work with. If you like to do traditional, like just gray ghost style flies, any of your Carrie Stevens traditional sets, stuff like that, such a cool effect when you put these feathers in. And it's also a really cool effect if you wrap that feather. Because again, you're getting it's kind of cocky bandeau. It's kind of like you've got a stripe, a solid, and a stripe. It's just like, so you're getting this really cool effect. One couple things about these, and you really need to, like, we number our stuff so you can see what you're getting. But on a lot of these, like this one here is a Badger. And you can see up here it's Badger. But this happens frequently because these are natural birds. I mean, they might dye them, but it's still a natural color. But when you get down in here, now you've got the black laced again, right down here. So it's black lace. Up here, it's still this is a Badger. It's considered a Badger. But when you get into these these feathers on a big streamer are just, this is one of the sexiest things you'll ever see on a feather. And you look at that thing, and when you see that swimming in the water, it gives you an entirely new effect. And so, but you have to be careful when you're looking at these because this one is a black lace, but it's got a bunch of Badgers in it. So you just need to really look your saddles or your capes over so you see, because they can both have both of them in it. All right. So this is a really, I'm not sure I've ever seen these in any other shop. I know other people have to sell them because they make them. But I'm telling you that this is one of the funnest ways to dress up a streamer you'll ever do in your life. This black lace stuff is just, it gives an entire, when you see it in the water when it's swimming, it gives you an entire different effect. It looks like two things moving at once. It's pretty cool to work with. So that's the American saddles and capes. So you've got your white dyes, your Grizzlies, your Badger, and your black lace. And then what's kind of coming on, because of we're losing the American Grizzlies, the Grizzly saddles, and so they're just getting, they're phasing them back a little bit, or out. And what we've got now are the Freshwaters. So these are Polish chickens, and this is a descendant Polish, but it's got more American bred into it. And they're simply bred in to be smaller, all right? And they call them the Freshwaters, the freshwater streamers. And again, all the colors, same colors. I mean, if there's a color you're looking for, I guarantee you it's in this thing. And so I just pulled these Grizzlies in pink so you could see them. But I want to show you something when we compare these. because Jeremy and I were talking about this earlier about what a great value this thing is. It's $25, I think. Is that right?
Yeah,
25
$25.
bucks. And so with this thing, and now here's the American right here. And the first thing you're going to see, it's shorter, right? Right there. It's smaller, just a little bit. And so you're not going to get the number of these 6 and 8 inch feathers out of these. You're going to get a few, but not too many, right? And it's going to be, there's a few of them up here, but you're going to have the lion's share is going to be a little bit smaller feather. And this is where it really, where you have to decide if you're doing feathers that are this long, if your tails are going to be this long, this is an incredible value. And they're a little bit more consistent because they're shorter. They haven't had as, I don't know why, maybe it's just they don't drag as much, I don't know. But there's a ton, just an absolute ton of that mid-sized feather in these things. And so when you go through, you get about to here, and you're probably looking at 20, 25 feathers of these bigger, less, more opaque and not very shiny. As soon as you get down into these, that's when you're going to get a ton. $25, you're going to get at least a package of schlappen on the top, and then you're going to get a ton of these feathers that, again, great little deceiver tails, but you're also getting a ton of feather that's really good for wrapping. I mean, you could do a dry fly with this thing if you wanted it, but it's, again, a really good feather to substitute for strung hackle or schlappen, because you can palmer it up your streamers, and it's you get an incredible number. And again, the number of feathers in this thing is ridiculous. This is a great starter neck for people that are just getting into streamer stuff, and it's a great one. Instead, I highly recommend you decide to sub this for your strung hackle, because you're going to get more, and you're getting a lot more quality out of these things than you do out of that random stuff in a bag. So that's the American streamer and the freshwater streamer. Again, probably the feather I use more than anything in my tying is in this category right here. Predominantly in those American saddles. I run through hundreds of those things, and it would be the feather that would kill me the most if they went away. So that's what we've got for the next of the next coming up. I believe we're going to be doing soft hackle feathers. That was the American series, and continuing in this whole thing about everything whiting. Hope you liked it. Hope it helps you out.